Ladies and gentlemen, the 9th annual convocation of the Institute is about to commence. The academic procession is now entering the hall. You are requested to stand up and remain standing till all the members of the procession are seated on the dais. Welcome to the 9th annual convocation of the Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, Pune. We are very honored to have with us as chief guest Professor Padmanabhan Balaram from the National Center for Biological Sciences in Bengaluru and former director, Indian Institute of Science. We extend a very warm welcome to you. We welcome the dignitaries on the dais. They are the Chairperson, Board of Governors, IISER Pune, Mr. Sudhir Mehta, who is also Chairperson of Torrent Private Limited, Professor Jayant Udgaonkar, Director, IISER Pune and Chairperson of the Senate, Colonel Rajshekhar, Registrar, IISER Pune, and Professor Girish Ratnaparki, Dean Academics. We also welcome other members of the Senate who are seated in the first row. These are senior faculty members, deans and chairs of the departments at IISER Pune. A quick reminder again to keep your cell phones off or in silent mode. I now request the Chair, Board of Governors, Mr. Mehta, to declare the convocation open.
Declare the 9th annual convocation of IISER Pune open.
Thank you, sir. I now request Professor Girish Ratnaparki, Dean Academics, to present the candidates for the doctoral degrees.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to all the parents to the 9th IISER convocation. It's my pleasure to present to all of you 32 students, including those in absentia, who have completed the prescribed program of study and research and have qualified for the award of Doctor of Philosophy. Of these 32, 10 have also qualified previously for the Master of Science degree as part of the integrated PhD program. I request the Chairperson Senate, Professor Jayant Udgaonkar, and the Registrar Colonel Rajshekhar to come forward to award the degrees. I will now read out the names of the students who have got either a PhD or a PhD with a master's. Devika Sudhir Bodhas in absentia, PhD. All the names I am going to read out are all PhD awards. Shoptik Chakravarti, could you please come on the dais? Vivek Kumar. Vivek Kumar in absentia. Tariq Ahmed Sheikh. Basudev Pattanayak in absentia. Gautam Sharma. Abhijit K. Sudeepa Mandal in absentia. Prerna Bora in absentia. Prachi Gupta in absentia. Saurabh Laha. Ashok Kumar B. Todkari Iranna Anappa. Prasanna Rai Chaudhary. Vargude Prakash Kashinath. Rintu Umesh in absentia. Devashish Mondal. Pooja Kumari. Silveshwari S. Ajit Vijay. Dheeraj Chandra Joshi. I now move on to the integrated PhD students. Ryan Chakravarti in absentia. Swati Deswal in absentia. Abhijit Gupta. Dev Prasanna Kar. These are all distinction candidates. Divya Rao, distinction in absentia. Vikhyat Ahalwat in absentia. Naveen Nishad. Shubham Pandey in absentia. Harpreet Singh Kalsi in absentia. Angira Rastogi in absentia. Gaurav Beniwal in absentia. I'll come to you. Can you just sit down? Sunita will move on to her.
Yes, request Professor Girish Ratnapatki, Dean Academics, to present the candidates for the BS and MS degrees.
I will now read out the names of candidates who have got a BSMS degree with distinction. Pritam Sinha Roy Chaudhary in absentia. Sarat Chandra J. Sabrinath JP. Chetan Pandey, Yashi Jain, Ritvik Kumar Ghosh, Abhinav Masi, Aditya Milind Kolatkar, Akash Trivedi, Deepankar Mehti, Nikhil Paniraj, Fernandez Johan Milton. Remember, all of these are distinction candidates. Shivam Sachin Chitnis, Shruti Ravindra Bharadwaj, Advait Ashirwad Thatte, Arijit Paul, Pratyush Amar, Samrendra Pani, Naganand KK, Shraddha Sunil Pathak, Madhubushi Abhinava Jagan, Satavisha Day, Google Shrija Gajanan, Pranav SR. A reminder that these are all distinction candidates. Saugata Chaudhary, Vaibhav Chaya, Krisil Ozak, Gautam Jagdish Hegde, Bihan Chatterjee, Prabhav Jain, Abhishek Koparde, Devesh Maurya, Patil Rushikesh Anil, Vishnu Priya S. So Vishnu Priya is the last of the distinction candidates. I now move on to the BSMS students of the batch. Simant Mishra in absentia, Gurmail, Himanshu A. Bhisikar, Sanak Mukherjee, Rahul Verma, I think Minu Meena in absentia, Kumbhar Vaibhav Umakant in absentia, Mithil Kotak, Gupte Vrita Sunil, we'll take a short 1 minute pause over here. I request director to give Rohan Maniar's certificate to him on the first row. We continue with P. Ria. Reshma Reji. Tirumala Venkata Chakradhar in absentia. Sahana N. Rahul Kumar, Shashank Pritam, Praniti Singh, Simantini Paul, Amit Yadav in absentia, Santosh M, Ashwath Narayanan Madhusudan, Yogesh Raj Nambisan, my apologies. Devanandan K, Malavika Biju, Amlan Nanda, Ahmad Suhail Udungat, Arshad T, Ramya KR in absentia, Lokamrut KR, Aditya Khanna, Viraj Daniel D'Souza, Abhishek Kumar Gupta, Supratim Das, Prashant Kumar, Gopidi Harshan Reddy in absentia, Deshpande Srijit Ganesh in absentia, Badane Anurag Nitin Rao, Lakshmi Sriram, Aishwarya Ajit B, Shaubhadra Maiti, Rahul Tak, Shweta K. Singh, Albert Jacob, Vanjari Rishabh Umesh, Guneet Singh Tarang, I'm running early. Okay, Guneet Singh Tarang. Tarun Yadav. Gauri Niranjana. Ananya Dodamani. Tathagata Bhattacharya. Akash R. Anaga Ajay Bhangali. Prerna Bose. Nandini R. Aniket Ashok Zodaje. S. Pavithira. Rosemary Roshan. Megha Dinesh Bhatt. Meenakshi PV. Vimal Das ES. B. Niranjan. Rohit Sahasrabuddhe. Mayank Pathak. Shefali Dharmakriti Sonarkar. Rashmita N. Sean David. Thangjam Kelvin. Vibhut Chandan Sahu. Kirtana M. Bodhayan Biswas. Shri Kuttan LS. Gaikwad Vibhor Vijay. Nishant Barwa. Vivek Kumar. Kardile Vaishnavi Vitthal. Sayantan Datta. Ankur Prakash. Zade Ashna Anil. Varsha Jaisimha, Gujare Aditi Ashok, Satyam Saurabh, Kabaddi Rijuta Nayan, K. Sai Vignesh in absentia, Anil Kumar, Joshi Amay Abhay, Sheikh Parvez Mandal, Hitesh Kumar, Chirag Gupta, Srivastava Prachi Dhanendra, Shubhankar Gajanan Londe, Ajay, Mohammad Jibin P, Swarnavo Basu, Kelkar Vidyadhish Jagdish, in absentia Badashri R. Jeevan, in absentia Umbarkar Prajakta Keshav, Mahajan Utkarsh Anil, Rahmatullah MP, Amratya Harsh Singh, in absentia Lisas Kumar Sevatkar, Ate Kaustav Vilas Rao, Avinash Verma, Kshitij V. Bansal, Pranay Naredi, Aditya Singh Bagri, Sarjit Sahu, Ashutosh Rana, Srinil Saraf, Yuvraj Chaudhary, Somesh Kurahatti, Samudra Prasanna Girish in absentia, Achinta Mitra, Parmar Dhruvanshu Mahesh Bhai, Sugat Kokilu, Mayur Raj Singh, Rishabh Dev, Patil Harshal Rajendra, Mohit Chatwani, Rakshit Rajput, Kaustubh Mishra, Govind Gandhi M. Kinjal Mondal. Shivangi Patel. Jamunkar Abhishek Ravindra. Manish Kumar Gupta. Dheeraj Tembhurne. Nikita Gupta. Mulkalwar Ishwari Mahendra. Sayan Devnath. And three BS exits in students in absentia: Kunjal Kumar Patel, Krishnakant Marksole, and Palthi Sairam. I'll now move to the alumni list, and before that, Manwa Devekar Joshi. A PhD student. Okay, so now the rest of the alumni. Abhishek Chaudhary. Gudapati Hrithik. Jyotish S. Dhavade Mayur Shashikant. Sagnik Ghosh. Shriya Shrikant Hirve. P. Balakrishna. Utpal Singh. Adarsh Srinivasan. Jatin Suresh Patil. Dinesh PR. Gopika M. Devadarshini S. Snigdha Samantray. Harshvardhan BV. Ishan Jaiswal. Appu S. Akash Gupta. Chitwan Chandoria. Durgesh Raman Ajgaonkar. Muskan Shinde. Subhashri Subhadarshini. Moirangathem Biki Singh. Akash Chavan. Ankur Rajendra Panchal, Agam Parag Shah, Vedant Prasanna Kumar, Sankalp Chaudhary, Deepshika Sen, Devi Prasad Panda, Shyam Krishna P.
Yeah. I request the Chair, Board of Governors to sign on the graduation register.
Students from IISER from the very beginning. So I'll repeat myself. The register contains the name of all graduating students from the first student who graduated from IISER. And I'll call it a hard copy of all graduating students from IISER, which is what the BOG chairman has signed.
Now we commence the awards for best thesis prizes, both for MS thesis and PhD thesis from all disciplines. So I request Professor Girish Ratnapathy to announce the awardees.
So I am going to request the chairs of departments to come on stage in alphabetical order. I request first Chairperson Biology, Professor Thomas Bucadil, to come on stage and read out the awards.
So it's an absolute delight to announce Vaibhav Chaya as being awarded the best MS thesis in biology this year. So Vaibhav's thesis is titled Form and Function in the Bills of Cavity Excavating Barbets. And Vaibhav has completed his MS thesis with Dr. Anand Krishnan, who I believe is here in the audience with us. I'm also happy to mention that Vaibhav will be continuing a program be joining a PhD program in biology at the University of Washington in Seattle. Good luck, Vaibhav.
I request the Chairperson Chemistry, Professor Gopi, to announce the awards for chemistry.
I'm very happy to announce the Best Thesis Award in Chemistry that goes to Vritim Sinha Rai Chaudhary. This award will be given to him in absentia. Vritim Sinha Rai Chaudhary carried out his MS thesis on the studies towards the synthesis of anti-cancer agents, IAM, 290 under the guidance of Dr. Bhupati Gnanaprakasam at IISER Pune. His work focused on developing a facile synthetic route for IIM 290, which recently entered phase 3 clinical trials to treat pancreatic cancer. Pratim Sinha wishes to pursue his PhD degree in synthetic organic chemistry with an emphasis on natural product total synthesis.
Girish, I think you have to read the names of the other thesis awardees.
Oh, I request, this is chemistry of, do I move on to physics?
We have done biology and chemistry.
Okay, I have thought the chair. Can you read it out if you have the information? I apologize to everybody.
So we have best thesis awards in physics, mathematics, earth and climate science, and interdisciplinary studies. So we just need to call each of the chairs.
After chair chemistry, I'll call Professor Bapat from the physics department.
It's my pleasure to announce the awards in physics. I'll begin with the Best PhD Thesis Award, which goes to Ajit Vijay. Ajit's thesis title is Translational Diffusion of a Tracer Molecule in Nano-Confined Water. Ajit is a BSMS alumnus of IISER Pune. He got his degrees in 2015 and continued to work with Dr. Shiv Prasad Patil for his PhD. He has developed a state-of-the-art instrument and analysis technique for measuring the diffusion of a tracer molecule in water confined between walls separated by a few nanometers. Ajit will now be moving on as a postdoctoral fellow in the research group of Professor Mark Risen at the University of Texas, Austin, very soon, in a couple of months. All the best, Ajit, for your next endeavor, and hearty congratulations from all of us. Let me now go over to the Best MS Thesis Award, which goes to Rishikesh Anil Patil. From the applause Rishikesh has received, he is clearly a very popular student. Rishikesh has worked on theoretical physics, specifically on exact calculations of non-local quantities in a loop model. His work was done under the guidance of Professor Kedar Damle of TIFR Mumbai and Dr. Srijit in IISER Pune. Rishikesh wishes to pursue a PhD in physics with an emphasis on theoretical condensed matter physics, and he will soon be joining the University of California, Santa Barbara. Rishikesh, all the best for your endeavors, and congratulations once again. Thank you.
I apologize for the mix-up in sequence. I request Dr. Gyana Tripathi from the Earth and Climate Science Department to announce the award winners for the ECS department.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to announce the Best Thesis Award for Earth and Climate Science Department. This year, the best thesis goes to Iswari Mulkalwar. She pursued a PhD master's project with Suhas Itamal on the topic of amplitude modulation of the quasi-biennial oscillation by the connectivity coupled equatorial waves. The study highlights the seasonal and geographical preference shown by equatorial waves as a crucial factor in isolating their signals. She wishes to pursue a PhD, and I wish her success for joining a PhD degree at Scripps Institute of Oceanography at San Diego. Thank you.
We next move on to the mathematics department. I request Dr. Shoman Maiti to come on stage and present the award for the mathematics department.
Good evening. In mathematics, best PhD thesis award goes to Procession Rai Chaudhuri. Procession joins mathematics department in 2017, and then he worked in the area of real analysis with Dr. Anup Bishwas and Devdeep Ganguly. He made significant contribution to the study of Poincare-Hari types inequalities and eigenvalue problems for second-order elliptic PDEs. He will be joining National Taiwan University as a postdoc fellow. Congratulations, Professor. So next, in mathematics, the best MS thesis award goes to Yasi Jain. She worked in the area of number theory and the representation theory with Professor Stephen Spallon. In her thesis, she estimated how many irreducibles are primes in the case of rings of integers in a number field. And she will be joining Johns Hopkins University for her PhD. Thank you.
Next up, for the Earth and Climate Science, for the Humanities and Social Sciences Department, I request the chair, Dr. Pushkar Soni, to announce the awards.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to announce the Best MS Thesis Award for Humanities and Social Sciences, which has been awarded to Viraj Daniel D'Souza. Viraj carried out his MS thesis on the linkages between sustainable development and environmental justice under the supervision of Dr. Shalini Sharma. This qualitative research used in-depth interviews, media discourse analysis, and secondary research to document and examine Pune and Sabarmati riverfront development projects. The title of the thesis was, "Can Environmental Justice Guide Sustainable Development? The Case of Pune and Sabarmati Riverfront Development Projects." And the study indicates the need to explore empirically the nexus between environmental justice and sustainable development, which both have conceptual linkages and symbiotic goals, but remain elusive in practice. And Viraj plans to pursue a PhD in the social sciences, so we wish him the best for that.
For interdisciplinary sciences, I would like to announce the winner as Rohit Sahasrabuddhe. So Rohit's worked on social ecological systems with Dr. Shai Pilosof in the Ben Gurion University of the Negev, Israel, and Professor Martin Roswall in the Umeå University, Sweden. Using an agent-based model for social processes, his project explores the dynamics of harvesting a stylized renewable resource. The study highlights the intertwined nature of social and environmental processes. Understanding these interactions is vital to making informed and responsible decisions around the challenges that face us in the Anthropocene. Rohit will be continuing to study complex systems and hopes to work on tackling problems of societal importance during his DPhil in the University of Oxford.
Now, Professor Girish Ratnaparki, Dean Academics, will present the candidate for the Institute Gold Medal from the BS-MS program.
It is my honor to present the Institute, ask the Chief Guest and Director to present the Institute Gold Medal to the student who tops the batch by obtaining the highest cumulative grade point average. I request the Chief Guest to hand over the medal to Adit Milind Kolatkar. So, Aditya has a CGPA of 9.9 in a scale of 10. He has scored 12 O grades, 43 A grades. His total credits are 217. He is specializing in physics. Aditya graduates with the Institute's gold medal. Aditya has majored in physics with a special emphasis on statistical and condensed matter physics. In his third year, he was awarded the prestigious DAD-Y scholarship to pursue a summer internship at the University of Stuttgart in Germany. For his MS thesis, he worked with Dr. Srijit Jeji at IISER to set up density matrix renormalization group calculations for the quantum Hall effect with the aim of elucidating the physics of quantum Hall interfaces. Next, for his future, Aditya wishes to pursue a PhD in physics and will join Cornell University in this fall. Congratulations.
I now request the Director, IISER Pune, Professor Jayant Udgaonkar, to present the report of the Institute and to introduce the Chief Guest.
Professor Balaram, Mr. Mehta, the Chairman of our Board of Governors, Girish, and the Registrar Colonel Shekhar, and of course students, their teachers, including members of the Senate sitting in front of me, and parents of the students. This is a day of celebration for our graduating students. During the 5 years here, they have contributed much to strengthen the intellectual atmosphere at the Institute, and we thank them for that. They entered Pune, IISER Pune, as teenagers, and they leave the Institute as responsible young adults, ready to make their mark on the world. I am sure that the education at IISER has prepared them well not only to tackle the important problems in science, but also to address the many problems facing us as a society. I know they will do well, and I wish them happiness in their lives. It's my pleasure now to present the annual report of the Institute for the period April 2021 to March 2022. The Institute is holding a convocation after 3 years. The 2020 and 2021 convocations could not be held because of the pandemic. Instead, we held online valedictory functions honoring the graduating students. Fortunately, 2022 has been a better year, and with all students back at the Institute, vibrancy and all sorts of activities have returned to the campus. It is only through the hard work put in by the Institute COVID-19 task force that there is now a more normal life on campus. Hopefully, the Institute will be back to complete normalcy very soon. The year 2021 to 22 was an important year in the genesis of the Institute. The new Department of Data Science got off the ground, with faculty members joining it. It will surely grow well. The Department of Science Education has also been established, and it is expected that it too will grow well once the Institute is once again allowed to hire new faculty members. These new academic activities, along with a greater appreciation of the importance of the humanities and social sciences at the Institute, will ensure that students at IISER Pune receive a well-rounded education that prepares them well for their future life once they leave the Institute. The Institute now has 136 faculty members in 8 departments. There are 1136 BSMS students, 189 integrated PhD students, and 434 PhD students. Today, a total of 197 students have received their degrees. The Institute is proud of its students and congratulates the graduating students, confident that they will do well in their life ahead. An institute grows well when its new faculty members do well. They bring in new ideas, new enthusiasm, and new energy. The Institute welcomed 7 new faculty members to its teaching and research programs during the last year. They include Professor Amit Apte in data science, Professor Rajesh Gokhale in biology, Dr. Lilavati Narlika in data science, Dr. Kalika Prasad in biology, Dr. Ashish Arora in physics, Dr. Arka Banerjee in physics, and Dr. Sushmita Adhikari in physics. Research at the Institute continues to flourish. Faculty members and students published 573 papers during the 2021 academic year. 13 patent applicants were filed, 8 published, and 5 patents granted to faculty members during the same period of time. Over the past year, faculty members secured extramural funding for 51 new projects. Amongst these were 3 new DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance grants, and grants under 2 new schemes, the SUPRA scheme of the Science and Engineering Research Board, and the Team Science Scheme of the DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance. The chemistry department received its second FISC grant. The Interdisciplinary Center for Water Research, established in 2020, had many activities throughout the year, including consultations with key stakeholders, talks, and meetings. The Institute now hosts 2 Section 8 companies dedicated to promoting innovation on campus. The Technology Business Incubator, AIC Seed, is supported by the Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog of the Government of India, and was inaugurated in April 2021. The iHub Quantum Technology Foundation was set up with the Department of Science and Technology. I'm sure that in the coming years, these 2 companies will play a proactive role in making the IISER community think seriously about translating their research and ideas into products useful for society. In the 2021 India rankings of the National Institutional Ranking Framework, NIRF, which considers all universities and national institutes in India, IISER Pune was ranked at the 24th position in the overall category and at the 16th position in the research category. The research accomplishments of faculty members have been recognized by various prestigious awards. Professor Deepak Dhar was selected to receive the prestigious Boltzmann Medal for 2022. Maybe he should stand up. Yeah. Professor Srinivas Hota and Professor Ramanathan Vaidyanathan were named Fellows of the Royal Society of Chemistry. Professor Ramanathan Vaidyanathan was appointed as an associated editor of the journal Chemistry of Materials. Professor Suthir Dey and Professor Bhumi Shankar received the Serb Star Award for 2021. Dr. Shrabanti Chowdhury and Dr. Bhumi Shankar received the bronze medals of the Chemical Research Society of India for 2022. Dr. Nishad Matange was selected for the 2021 eLife Ben Barris Spotlight Award. Dr. Mausami Bhakta and Dr. Siddesh Kamath were selected for the Swarna Jayanti Fellowships for 2020-25. Dr. Raghav Rajan was selected for the Senior Fellowship awarded by the DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance. Professor Sham Rai received a Raja Ramana Fellowship. Dr. Sudipto Sharkar was elected as a Fellow of the Geological Society of London. Dr. Sagar Pandit was elected as a Life Fellow of the Royal Entomological Society. Professor Satish Chandra Ogle received the C.N.R. Rao Prize Lecture Award in Advanced Materials for the year 2021 from the Materials Research Society of India, and Professor Rajesh Gokhale was appointed as the Secretary of the Department of Biotechnology. After successfully running a COVID-19 testing center with the help of volunteers from among students, staff, and faculty members during 2020, the Institute ran a COVID-19 vaccination center during 2021, where a total of 4,400 individuals received their vaccines. The doctors and nurses of the campus wellness clinic, as well as the counselors, played an important role, often going beyond the call of duty in keeping the campus safe and healthy. Another major contribution towards tackling COVID-19 came from genome sequencing efforts at the Institute. IISER Pune became a member of the Indian SARS-CoV-2 Consortium on Genomics, a consortium of national laboratories established by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and by the Department of Biotechnology. The Institute is also part of a consortium led by CSIR CCMB Hyderabad for SARS-CoV-2 genome sequencing and environmental surveillance across 4 major Indian cities, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Pune, and Delhi. IISER Pune, the Pune Knowledge Cluster, and NCL Pune represent Pune city in the consortium. The bulk of the clinical samples and all the environmental surveillance samples from Pune city are sequenced at IISER Pune. The SARS-CoV-2 genome sequencing effort at the Institute is currently supported by the Rockefeller Foundation, the Vilu Poonawalla Foundation, and the Janki Devi Bajaj Gram Vikas Sanstha. Faculty members Krishnapal Kamodia, Arnab Ghosh, and Joy Mervyn Montero are coordinating this initiative. Several of the Institute's students received accolades for their performance in academics and innovation. Curem Biotech, the first student-led startup at IISER Pune, was incubated at the Atal Incubation Center on the campus. The team won BIRAC's Biotechnology Ignition Grant and the iGEM Startup Showcase. A team of students from IISER Pune won a gold medal at the 2021 iGEM Synthetic Biology Competition. BSMS student Chirag Gupta was among the toppers of CAT 2021. IISER students had to spend a good part of the year attending classes online from home, and this meant limited opportunity to pursue extracurricular activities. Nevertheless, they made the most of the difficult situation and adapted some extracurricular activities to the online mode. The students participated in the Inter-IISER Virtual Games and Sports Fest, Tenacity, conducted by IISER Kolkata, conducted the Mimamsa Annual Science Quiz online, and took part in the cultural events conducted by IISER Pune and Behrampur as part of the Ek Bharat Shreshth Bharat program. Pratha, the Green Club, organized events on the campus such as counting of bird species and recording biodiversity on the campus. Returning to campus earlier this year allowed students to participate in the IISER Premier League cricket tournament. During 2021-22, the Institute received financial commitments of rupees 3.4 crores from 19 companies and individuals to support various activities. Funds were raised towards research and outreach activities and for providing financial assistance to the students. A total of 88 students received support for paying semester fees as well as for subsistence. The IISER Pune Ideas Limited tuition fee waiver to meritorious students was extended to 10 students, and one PhD student will be receiving a prestigious industry-supported PhD fellowship. Under the Infosys Foundation Endowment Fund, tuition fee waivers were extended to 48 BSMS students and 4 integrated PhD students, whereas travel grants were awarded to 12 PhD and integrated PhD students. The IISER Pune Ideas scholarships for 2021 to 22 were received by 21 meritorious students. CSR contributions made possible research grants to 27 senior PhD and integrated PhD students and 50 BSMS students, and supported 50 PhD scholars on the extended PhD tenure. The Institute mourned the sad demise of Sri Rahul Bajaj, a long-time benefactor of IISER Pune, in February this year. Through the endowment instituted by him in 2021, 3 faculty members, Dr. Mosami Bhakta, Professor Pinaki Talukdar, and Professor Thomas Pukadil, were recognized for their academic achievements through chair professorships named after Sri Rahul Bajaj. The Institute engaged with 22 organizations from industry and academia in India and elsewhere towards building research partnerships. Considering the strong research collaborations in the area of chemistry and also the dual master's and doctoral program, the MOU for academic and research collaboration between IISER Pune and Temple University in the US was renewed for the next 5 years. The Institute signed a MOU with Durham University as the first milestone in developing a collaboration for a virtual center for teaching excellence and pedagogy, along with international partners. MOU with the Institut de Physique du Globe de Paris, France, was renewed for 4 years towards a dual master's degree program in the earth sciences. A joint workshop series has been initiated with the School of Education, University of Glasgow. Based on the results of these workshops, a course for training teachers will be co-developed by the University of Glasgow School of Education and IISER Pune. During the pandemic, the Science Activity Center started a Sunday live lecture and demonstration series. The total number of views surpassed 2.2 lakhs in the last year. The center also organized Wednesday live demonstration sessions, Toycathon, Children's Day and Science Day celebrations, all of which allowed the Institute to reach out to the wider student and teacher community. The IRISE project, hosted at the Institute, is reaching out to the teacher and researcher community via capacity building training activities. In June 2021, a major fire damaged some of the laboratories in the chemistry wing, resulting in the loss of reagents and equipment and disrupting the work of several research students. The restoration work of these laboratories was started immediately after the fire by the Institute Engineering section, and the majority of this work has been completed. The Institute has benefited tremendously from the smooth functioning of its statutory committees, the Senate, the Building and Works Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Board of Governors. The advice and guidance of all members of the Board of Governors have been invaluable, especially that of its chairperson, Shri Sudhir Mehta, who is presiding over the convocation today. Again, it is my privilege to congratulate all students graduating today. Congratulations. I wish you all the best. Do well in life. Thank you.
I now request the director to introduce the chief guest.
It's really a privilege to introduce Professor Balaram. Professor Balaram studied in Pune initially. He did his BSc from Ferguson College, from Pune University, his MSc from IIT Kanpur, and his PhD from Carnegie Mellon University. He was then at Howard University for a year before joining the faculty of the Indian Institute of Science, where he was from 1973 to 2014 as a faculty member. He was director of the IISc from 2005 to 2014 and has done extensive work and contributed much to the areas of molecular biophysics and chemical biology. Professor Balaram is known to virtually every scientist in the country because of the very incisive editorials he's written for the journal Current Science for something like 8 years, from 1995 to 2013. I believe he's authored over 300 editorials in which he has really discussed and analyzed the state of Indian science over all those years. He's a recipient of many awards and honors, including the Padma Shri and the Padma Bhushan. Most recently, he received the Bruce Merrifield Award of 2021 from the American Peptide Society. He's currently associated with the National Center for Biological Sciences in Bangalore as the DST YOS Chair Professor. So that's the formal part of the introduction, but I've known Professor Balaram since 1987, I believe. This was before I joined before I came back to India from the US. And I visited the Indian Institute of Science at that time in 1987, and Professor Balaram spared a whole day to show me around the campus. And he took me around on his scooter, and I nearly killed him by not knowing how to sit properly on a two-wheeler. Even though my weight at that time was 10 kilograms less, his was even lesser. And the mass distribution on the scooter was such that it was tilting in front of a bus. But anyway, it's been a real pleasure to have known him since that time. I got to know him even more when I moved to Bangalore, and our center was, for the first 5-6 years, on the Indian Institute of Science campus. We used to get invited to the same meetings very often. At least all the meetings I was invited to, he would be speaking also. And invariably, he was the star speaker, and I would be speaking after him. And those of you who have heard Professor Balaram speak know that it's very difficult to match him in style and follow him in any lecture which he gives. And all of you will really get to know that when he delivers his lecture. It's been a pleasure knowing him all these years. He's been a source of very good advice to the institute I was at, and also to me personally. And it's with great pleasure that I invite him to give his talk out here.
Good evening. Shri Sudhir Mehta, Chairperson, Board of Governors, the Director, Professor Jayant Udgaonkar, guests, faculty, students, and most importantly, the graduating batch of students who are present. It's a privilege for me to be with you at this 9th Convocation of IISER Pune. First of all, I must begin by congratulating each and every one of you and offering my best wishes to all the students who are graduating today, and of course to their families for whom this is the most important day. In coming to this convocation, I asked myself, what should I talk to you about? Your minds are dominated today by two conflicting emotions: the prospects of leaving an institution where you have spent some of the most enjoyable years of your life. You will realize that they were the most enjoyable years of your life very much later in your life. And the excitement of anticipating a new chapter that is about to begin. I had the opportunity of having a ringside view of the processes that led to the establishment of the IISERs in 2006. Their establishment was driven by the recognition that it was important to embed undergraduate science education in an ambience where research was very much a part of the environment. After all, it is the scientific advances of the last 2 centuries that have driven the modern technological revolution. I'm also aware that the last 2 years have seen an upsurge in the public awareness of science. This has been driven by the coronavirus and the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, terms like RT-PCR, rapid antigen tests, aerosol transmission, mRNA vaccines, and even mathematical modeling are terms that are commonly used in discussions between those unaware of the language of science. 55 years ago, and I thought about this when I was coming, when I graduated in this very city from the Ferguson College and went out into the world with a bachelor's degree, it was indeed a very different world. 36 years ago, when I reached the high point of any academic career, that is admission to the professorial rank, the world around me was still largely as it was in the 1960s. But in this interregnum, unknown to me, major revolutions were underway in science and technology. These upheavals spanned a range of disciplines: genome sequencing and genetic engineering in biology, the explosion of computer technologies, and the communications revolution. The internet, Google, and the cell phone forever transformed the way we live. These technological advances rested on fundamental breakthroughs in physics, in chemistry, in biology, in material science, in mathematics, and computer science, often the results of decades of painstaking research. Rarely were they the result of that blinding flash of insight that makes science often look glamorous and romantic from the outside. I want you to think of gene sequencing technologies. Reflect on the lithium battery so central to our lives today, or the electronic processes that drive all our devices, and many more. You will realize that science and technology are inseparable. Even the seeds of Google's PageRank algorithm can be found in the scientific literature of the 1950s, when Eugene Garfield laid the foundations of the web of science, ushering in the age of scientometrics, with his very famous paper, Citation Indexes for Science, a New Dimension in Documentation Through Association of Ideas. If you go back and look at these, you will find that the seeds of many revolutions in science have been sowed many decades earlier. The long investments in basic research are sometimes best done with public funds. You are, of course, a publicly funded institution. It is therefore important that governments across the world take the long view of science, an approach that is indeed difficult in times of floundering economies. Captains of industry, driven by the imperatives of corporate progress, will generally be cautious in investing in basic research. Even private philanthropists in India would be disinclined to support an activity whose benefits are not immediately apparent. As graduates in science, you might be asked a question, and you might be asked this question even by your families. What is science? Sometimes you might, as I have done, ask yourself the question and seek an answer. You might answer that science is the study of nature. That leads to another question. What is nature? The best answer that I found was in the editorial in the very first volume of the journal Nature that appeared in 1869. The famous biologist Thomas Huxley was asked to write this editorial, heralding the appearance of a new science journal. Huxley did not write the editorial. Instead, what he did was he translated from the German an essay written in the mid-18th century by the poet von Goethe. And I quote, in the poet's words, "Nature, we are surrounded and embraced by her, powerless to penetrate beyond her and powerless to separate ourselves from her." It is therefore not surprising that the two most influential journals in science are named Nature and Science. Think of the subjects that you've studied. Physics and biology are with you all the time. You know, if you move, you think about physics. If you see anything around you, it's biological. Although sometimes you may not choose to recognize this fact. Nothing in the world around you, including yourself, is divorced from chemistry. Indeed, some years ago, in response to an intriguing judgment of the Bombay High Court that steam is not a chemical, the Royal Society of Chemistry offered an award of £1 million to anyone producing a material that is non-chemical. Today, the only people who sort of advertise non-chemical chemicals are Patanjali and some companies like this. The £1 million offer of the Royal Society of Chemistry is still available. And I'm sure that some of you need the money, and therefore you should look for this non-chemical material. Of mathematics, I can do no better than remind you that Galileo once remarked that mathematics is the language in which God wrote the universe. If I paraphrase Galileo, and I'm a chemist, I might add that chemistry is the language in which nature wrote the book of life. The biochemist Arthur Kornberg aptly described chemistry as the lingua franca of the medical and biological sciences. It is one of the sad facts of medical education in India that so little attention is paid to the study of chemistry. Now, science also requires tools, and we sometimes underestimate the importance of technology in driving science. The famous theoretical physicist Freeman Dyson once noted that science is often driven by new technologies rather than new concepts. This is sometimes difficult for those scientists who are in science, for this blinding flash of insight to believe this, but it is true in many, many disciplines. I hesitate to say this, of course, with Professor Deepak Dhar in the audience, and thinking of Boltzmann, one might sometimes think that pure thought leads to remarkable insights. In the 17th century, two inventions, the telescope and a microscope, forever altered our view of the world. When Galileo pointed the telescope skywards, he opened the field of cosmology, which was then still restricted by human vision. When Leeuwenhoek examined water under his microscope, he discovered living organisms, too small to be seen with the naked eye. He had uncovered the vast science of microbiology, and this is a field which has really impacted the public consciousness during the years of the pandemic. Tools are also discovered sometimes when fundamental research allows scientists to make observations. that lead to far-reaching conclusions and applications. The classical example is Pasteur's resolution of tartaric acid in the mid-19th century. This opened the field of stereochemistry with its very wide-ranging impact on biochemistry and also the interactions of light with matter. Fleming's serendipitous discovery of penicillin is another oft-cited example which ushered in the age of antibiotics. But in the 20th century, separated by a span of 7 decades, 2 discoveries revolutionized medicines, making diagnostic radiology indispensable for clinical practice. Both came from physics. The first was Röntgen's discovery of X-rays at the dawn of the century. In fact, when Röntgen first discovered X-rays, the only people who liked X-rays were medical practitioners, because Röntgen had called his wife in and asked her to put her hand in front of the X-ray beam, and he saw the skeletal impression of the hand. Röntgen's wife wasn't very happy. She said, "I've seen death." But the medical practitioners immediately realized you could now visualize broken bones when you saw them. The second advance was much later, Lauterber's imaging of 2 tubes of water in the 1970s using nuclear magnetic resonance in inhomogeneous magnetic fields. This was the birth of magnetic resonance imaging. You know, the prefix nuclear was cleverly dropped so that it doesn't alarm the public. Magnetic resonance sounds somewhat neutral. Can there be better examples than X-rays and MRIs? When you enter a hospital, you see them everywhere. Can there be better examples to argue the case for basic science? Raman's effect, for example, today is used in ways which Raman would have never anticipated in the late 1920s when he discovered this new phenomenon of light scattering. But amongst those of us who marvel at the wonders of nature, always ask the question, where did everything we see come from? This leads to questions which cannot always be answered. Questions on the origins of the universe, questions on the origins of life on Earth. All the natural elements in Mendeleev's periodic table were the Earth's inheritance when it was born. Nucleosynthesis is the prerogative of the stars, and our sun is amongst them. In his magisterial survey of the ascent of man, this is the title of a BBC series which appeared in the 1970s, narrated by Jacob Bronowski, later produced as a book. Bronowski describes the formation of carbon, so essential for life. And I quote, "In all the stars there are going on processes which build up the atoms one by one into more complex structures. Matter itself evolves. The word comes from Darwin and biology, but it is the word that changed physics in my lifetime." You must understand the word evolve. Even cultural evolution is something that we need to understand today. Cultures evolve too. Bronowski goes on to reflect on the formation of carbon so essential for life. He says, the formation of carbon atoms happen when 3 helium nuclei collide for 1/1,000,000th of a second, 10 to the minus 12 of a second. And then he says, every carbon atom in every living creature that is in all of us is the result of such a wildly improbable collision. What does it mean? Life and biology are indeed improbable, a chance event in our solar system's evolutionary history. After centuries of science, can one list its most important achievements? As freshly minted graduates and faculty tempered by experience, you might well try. But here I must quote the always eminently quotable physicist, Richard Feynman. In his introductory lecture, in his now immortal course on undergraduate physics at Caltech, he asks a question. I'll read the question. If in some cataclysm all of scientific knowledge were to be destroyed and only one sentence passed on to the next generation of creatures, what statement would contain the most information in the fewest words? He answers his question in his class. He says, I believe it is the atomic hypothesis, or the atomic fact, or whatever else you wish to call it, that all things are made up of atoms, little particles that move around in perpetual motion, attracting each other when they are a little distance apart, but repelling upon being squeezed into one another. Boltzmann, of course, had anticipated atoms in the 19th century when he thought of heat. Ironically, the cataclysm that must have occupied Feynman's thoughts in the 1950s and 60s would have been the threat of nuclear war. That was what everybody used to think about in the 1950s and 60s. Sadly, that prospect appears to have once again emerged. In the world of geopolitics, there is little time to wonder about the fragile thread by which life on Earth hangs, and the importance of preserving the natural world, which of course includes human species, as unsustainable consumption and development threaten the natural order. In the year 1999-2000, the new century was being born. It was also the new millennium, and everyone was excited. Actually, nothing changes, but everyone was still excited. The journal Nature commissioned a series of essays where established commentators put forth their views on what was the most important scientific advance of the 20th century. If you were asked to name this today, all of you will have different ideas. You might think about this based on the subjects that you have studied or heard at IISER. One essay that I read then has stayed in my mind. This was written by the Canadian environmental scientist Václav Smil. He argued that the most important scientific advance of the 20th century was the Haber-Bosch industrial synthesis of ammonia. All of you would have studied this and undoubtedly disregarded this, the Haber process for converting gaseous nitrogen and hydrogen at high temperature and high pressure in the presence of a catalyst to yield ammonia. I remember studying this as an undergraduate. You probably studied it in 12th class now, and everyone learns to hate the Haber-Bosch process because it might actually appear in the examination. But you might ask, why is this the most important scientific advance of the 20th century? It is because it drove the synthesis of urea, the chemical synthesis of urea. And because of this, this was the first fertilizer, and it drove the first agricultural revolution of the 20th century. Millions of lives otherwise lost to famine were saved. Agriculture was transformed by chemistry in the first half of the 20th century. Famines persisted. The last famine in India happened in the mid-1960s when I was here in Ferguson College. And in those days, in the hostels, we would not get rice and we would not get wheat, but we would instead get khichdi made of sabutana. It was a time when the Prime Minister of India actually went on national radio to say that once a week we should not have our dinner. And of course, if you were 16 years old, you didn't think that was a good idea. But nevertheless, that was food scarcity. The second agricultural revolution of the 20th century was driven by biology. That's what we call the Green Revolution today. The world that you will encounter now in future faces true threats, both imminent. The first is the specter of food scarcity. Food security measures are crumbling in many countries as a consequence of the ongoing war in Ukraine. The second is the old Cold War bogey of a nuclear exchange. These threats promise to unsettle the global order, thereby denying human populations the benefits accrued by centuries of scientific advance. I don't know whether many of you have read this book. If you haven't, you must read it. This is the book Sapiens, written by the Israeli historian Yuval Harari. He traces the evolution of humankind. He asks an interesting question, which I paraphrase. When in the course of human evolution does human behavior begin to disregard biological imperatives that dominate animal behavior. We are all animals. And when does human behavior become increasingly influenced by recent history? In Harari's words, the cognitive revolution is accordingly the point when history declared its independence from biology. As long as we were hunter-gatherers, moving in small bands to gather food, we were driven by the same imperatives that animals are driven, the very animals that you study today in wildlife biology. He goes on to say, the immense diversity of imagined realities that sapiens invented and the resultant diversity of behavior patterns are the main components of what we call cultures. Once cultures appeared, they never ceased to change and develop, and these unstoppable alterations are what we call history. And then he says, from the cognitive revolution, and you might ask, what catalyzed the cognitive revolution? When did the human brain begin to develop in the manner in which it is developed today? It was again a technological advance. Bronowski traces this in The Ascent of Man. It was the invention of agriculture. It was when human societies became stationary. And when human societies became stationary, had to protect their food, protect their fields, that you needed to organize societies. And when you organize societies, the best way to organize them is to create myths which will bind societies together. What we see today are cultures which have evolved over the centuries, evolved over the 10, 20,000 years since agriculture first began to impact human existence on Earth. Harari goes on to say, from the cognitive revolution onwards, historical narratives replace biological theories as our primary means of explaining the development of Homo sapiens. To understand the rise of Christianity or the French Revolution, it is not enough to comprehend the interaction of genes, hormones, and organisms. It is necessary to take into account the interactions of ideas, images, and fantasies as well. What does modern science tell us about biology? Comparative genomics tells us that human beings are a minor branch in the tree of life, budding from the broader branch of eukarya. Life on Earth is dominated by the microbial branches, bacteria and archaea. Our closest neighbors, if you look at the tree of life in a biology textbook, are chimpanzees, rats, mice, pigs, horses, cattle, sheep, and dogs. There is a certain comforting unity in biology. Yet, human history, driven by civilizational influences and the evolution of culture, appears to be sadly divisive. Over the last 2 years, you have experienced nature in all its magnificence in the form of the coronavirus. While it has caused us great disruption, it is still a remarkable natural phenomenon where a disease has emerged out of nowhere and then evolved as it spread through human populations. The coronavirus has breached all political, religious, and ethnic boundaries, reminding us that politics and religion, two favorite pastimes not only in India but worldwide, afford no protection against the forces of nature. You might ask then, in an address when you're graduating, why do I draw your attention to such a disparate group of subjects? I do this because of the environment, climatic, social, and political, in which we live today. You're all from a science institution. Some reflections on the role of science in understanding nature may allow us to introspect on the course of human history and attempt to rationalize why the world is the way it is today. Science is a deeply humbling subject, and every day we are reminded of our imperfect understanding of even the subjects of our daily research. It is this humility that I hope you have learnt at IISER. It will go a long way in guiding you in the future. Usually, speakers at convocations are supposed to give words of good advice to the graduating class of students. I learnt long ago, never give advice to anybody. Don't give advice to government because they throw it into the waste paper basket. Don't give advice to your colleagues because they'll get angry with you. And don't give advice to students because they're going to anyway do whatever they want to do. So keep the advice to yourself. But then I thought, what have other people said? And I think the best convocation address that I've ever read was one given at Harvard many years ago. And the convocation speaker, or the commencement speaker as they are known, was a famous person, but not the kind of person you might expect at the Harvard commencement. It was J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books. And what J.K. Rowling said has really remained in my mind, and I'll simply paraphrase what she said. You know, there are two qualities that will stand you in good stead in whatever you wish to do. You might like to become a poet or a painter after having studied physics here. Don't worry, do it. And those two qualities, and I borrow from Rowling here, are resilience and imagination. Certainly, Rowling did very well with both qualities, and it was her resilience and her imagination which allowed her to produce the Harry Potter series. In research and indeed in many other walks of life, failure is more common than success. In Indian educational institutions, students come in after a battery of entrance examination. They come in already bruised and battered, especially, for example, in the IITs. After all of this, everything else is an anticlimax afterwards. And you're always worried about success. But in real life, failure is far more common than success, and in research, failure is almost an everyday occurrence. Overcoming the fear of failure, and this is Rowling's advice, is often the first step towards success. She said this to the Harvard graduating class because if you've gotten into Harvard, afterwards you're afraid of failing for the rest of your life, and that doesn't do you any good. I would continue to say, let your imagination take you forward and do whatever it is that you wish to do. It's been a privilege to come here and to address you, and may I wish all of you the very best in the years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Balaram, for your wonderful talk. You've given us a lot to think about. To take back memories of your visit to our institute, we would like to present you a memento. I request the director to hand over the memento to the chief guest. I now request the graduates to stand up for the exhortation from the Chairperson Senate.
Be aware that your knowledge and intellectual attainment is your most sacred wealth. Use it in a manner befitting the honor and dignity of your nation. Follow your passions, listen to your conscience, and prove your value to science and society. Make every effort through your thought, word, and deed to uphold the dignity of your profession and integrity of your character. Take the path of right action and excel in your pursuit of truth to brighten the future of the world. Be worthy of your alma mater, revere its spirit, and make us proud of you. Thank you.
I request the Chairperson, Board of Governors, to declare the convocation closed.
I declare the 9th annual convocation of IISER Pune closed.
Thank you, sir. I request everyone to stand up for the national anthem. And after the national anthem, all are requested to remain standing in their places till the academic procession leaves. The academic procession will now leave. All graduating students are requested to leave. I request the parents and guests to be seated until the students have left. I now request the parents and guests to leave. The parents and students are requested to head to the dining hall for dinner.